Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 16, 2024 meeting of Wodonga City Council. I'd like to start with welcome and acknowledgement of country. Wodonga Council acknowledges Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people as the first inhabitants of the country and as the traditional custodians of the land. We respect their ancestors, elders and young people and recognise their continuous connections to lands, waters and communities across the country. Councillors, I bring your attention to the Local Government Victoria Bulletin issue in relation to election period guidance for councils and for councillors running in council elections, and note the matters that have been circulated to each councillor. Apologies, request for leave of absence and request to attend by electronic means. Welcome, Olga. There are no apologies, no request for leave of absence, and no electronic means because everybody's here. Next item, declaration by councillors and staff of any conflicts of interest. Councillor Hall.
Yes, having read the Local Government Victoria Bulletin for the period for running council elections and running as a candidate, I have two conflicts of interest, one with item 8.1 and one with, they're both general conflicts of interest, and one which is not much to do with the bulletin but with a more private matter is 8.8.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Other councillors? Councillor Simpendorfer.
Yeah, likewise, Mr Mayor. Items 8.2 and 8.6 are general conflict, as Councillor Hall has just advised everyone, so mine will be 8.2 and 8.6. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. No other councillors. I have a conflict in item 8.2 and 8.6. Mr CEO, yeah, general conflict, Mr CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll declare a conflict, material conflict of interest under section 128 for 14.2 annual review of the Chief Executive Officer. Thank you.
Thank you. No further conflicts? No. Confirmation of minutes from the previous meeting. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Lowe. No matters to raise. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Yeah, the second lot of minutes for the ordinary council meeting. Do I have a motion? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Hall. No matters to raise. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Mr CEO, questions? I believe there is one.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We've had a question about an abandoned vehicle. The matter is an operational matter and is presently being dealt with by council staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr CEO. There being no petitions and no delegates reports. Item 8 or 8.1, items for consideration. Item 8.1, planning permit application 59/2024, Wodonga Racecourse. Councillor Hall.
Yes, I'm declaring a conflict of interest with this planning permit application. The matter is within the ward for which I have nominated as a candidate for the up and coming election, and it is a general conflict of interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillors, do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move a motion that Council approve a permit for demolition of the Racecourse grandstand, the Gordon White grandstand. B, buildings and works associated with the development of those two buildings. C, use and development of land as a function centre, including sale and consumption of liquor pursuant to a new liquor licence. D, display of signage. E, vary, waive or reduce the applicable car parking and bicycle parking facilities at Wodonga Racecourse, Broccoli Street, Wodonga. And F, apply conditions to the approval as included in Appendix 1 of the meeting, which is the stuff that I have distributed through tonight and to the councillors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Second, and Councillor Poulton. Councillor Chamberlain, you to speak.
This has been a difficult thing for Wodonga Council over a period of time. What's happening down at the racecourse? My initial thoughts on all of these heritage-style buildings is to try and save them where we can. That said, the racecourse grandstand bears virtually no resemblance to the original heritage grandstand as far as I can see. Certainly the construction of it inside, which appears to be very dilapidated on the internal floor. It looks okay from the back, but it's not so great inside. And I think the opportunity here with the racing club to build a function centre that will fill a hole in Wodonga for this type of building and certainly be far more functional and a real improvement on facilities within Wodonga, not just the racing club. So it will have the potential, I believe, to be leased out and used for other uses, as well as during race days. I know it's been a difficult thing. I know a lot of people are going to be a little upset that the old grandstand's going to go. I'd like to think that there will be some sort of nod to Gordon White, who was obviously a stalwart of the racing club in Wodonga, and hence the grandstand was named after him. But I'd hope that that would be taken into account down the track on some further facilities within the system. But yeah, I think the positives for Wodonga far outweigh the negatives when it comes to this application. So this is why I'm approving it to go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Poulton, reserve. Any other councillors? Councillor Lowe?
Pardon me. This one has been coming up to us for a while, and I'll draw you all back to a conversation that I had with a gentleman, an elderly gentleman who rang me up, and I thought he was going to be in support of saving the grandstand because he identified himself to me as someone that was stationed there during the war. And he said he had an easy war because he got stationed there with him and a couple of mates, and they married and they settled into the area. But what he went on to tell me after he told me a couple of those interesting stories is that the grandstand is very different now to what it was back then. He goes, he used to stand outside the lower part of that. They used to cook, I think it was. There used to be a kitchen out the side of it. And I'd say that's due to the ad hoc repairs over years and years that's happened to that venue. Actually, just a question through you, Mr. Mayor, the CEO. Who's the owner of the grandstand?
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. The owner is actually Councillors' Committee of Management, but the owner is the state. So, but as Committee of Management, we take ownership rights for it.
Councillor Lowe.
Department of Transport and Infrastructure would be DCAL, yeah, the owner. Thank you. Because I just note on page 31 of the briefing paper that the Department of Planning under Section 55 of the Planning and Environment Act 1980 said the head transport for Victoria did not object to the proposal, and nor have we seen any objections from the community to this. So I look, and they say you shouldn't draw upon personal life experiences as a councillor and stuff like that. But sometimes I find it really hard to sit here and go, well, hang on, there's a building matter here. Engineers, assessors have found this structurally unsound, and just knowing, you know, that what things cost, how things blow out and things down there, because further down, grounds for removing the overlay for the area and passing this through is whether this is structurally unsound, and it is structurally unsound. That's why it's got shut down in the first place, with safety barriers put up around it. So I look at my fellow councillors and go, you've got to just look at the history. It's been shut down, it's been hoarded off. We haven't had people in there to do final costings on it because it's just going to be too expensive. We cannot feasibly repair or adapt for reuse, which is another grounds right there. Yes, anything can be fixed and anything can be fixed at a price, but do we really want to throw ratepayers' money, dollar after the dollar after the dollar, and how far do we take that? You know, where's the start and stop in it? And it's not going to be fit for purpose. I echo Councillor Chamberlain's words that a new function centre there, a new grandstand there would be awesome. And it's been mentioned before, in 100 years' time, the new one will probably have historical value. So I'll be voting in favour of the recommendation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Simpendorfer.
I won't add any more, Mr Mayor. I think the fellow councillors have summed it up enough for me. This motion will have my support. Thank you.
Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, admittedly, I've missed a couple of briefings while I was on annual leave, but I'm very familiar with this issue from the previous decisions that Council has made and from the report in front of us and correspondence. I agree and echo the words of my fellow councillors that heritage buildings are in fact to be preserved and to be valued and cherished when it is practical and doable. This grandstand, however, is very hard to bring to the standards, retaining its heritage, and bring to the modern standards of safety, accessibility, and use for the purpose it needs to be used for. I would like to congratulate Racing Wodonga on their persistence, on their continuous work on this, on the detail they put into the work, and on the vision for providing the city of Wodonga with a new useful facility. Hopefully it will serve us for a long time, and hopefully there will be a lot of memorable events and functions in it, and I will be supporting the motion by Councillor Chamberlain. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Poulton, you're reserved.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the work done, I think, by officers in creating this solid document for the councillors to consider around the permit conditions. Just before my timer starts on my debate, just wondering if I just get some clarity on these conditions, Mr. Mayor, through you perhaps to the CEO. Were these put together by officers based on everything that we know, and there's nothing in here that'll, I guess, come back to bite us or be a concern later on? I'm just worried because I know there's been a few last-minute changes. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. CEO.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Yes, officers have prepared it with the best information at hand. So the applicant has information in their application, and there's been a further information request, and staff have considered other councils that have approved similar type facilities. But I can't say, given the period of time, that it's the best and most thorough examined. But for the period of time we've got, I think we've done a good job in preparing that.
Thank you. I will accept your answer, and it is very sound because I can see the couple of changes made last minute actually squashed a few of my fears. What I wanted to talk about in relation to this is specifically how long this organisation in our city has been trying to get to a resolution with their hope, aspiration, community impact, perhaps financial and economic impact for our community. I just interestingly went through my calendar and back on the 3rd of August 2021 with a previous CEO was when it was first brought to my attention as then a mayor. And that's over 3 years that's taken for us to find a process or to work with a partner within our community of great value to arrive at today. That in itself is a little concerning because I thought of my son. My son was still toilet training and is now in kindergarten at primary school. And we've taken that long to get something like this as a negotiation or a support mechanism to somebody in our community trying to achieve something. And I find that really frustrating for myself personally, but I can certainly understand how it'd be frustrating. And I think persistence, I think, was the words perhaps Councillor Quilty used, in 3 years being such a long time. But this will have my support. I'm confident that the permit conditions, to my understanding, are all things given achievable. But hopefully that isn't thrown in my face at a later date. But I will be supporting the motion that Councillor Chamberlain has put forward because it's about time this came to, I think, the conclusion where it needs to be. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Yeah, thank you to my fellow councillors. It sounds like it's going to go well, and I hope it does because I think it's a good result for Wodonga and certainly for the race club. If this motion gets up, can I foreshadow that there is a separate motion that I wish to move in relation to? And can I just say, as Councillor Poulton said, I've only been here since December 22, and this has certainly been a major issue that whole time. And it's about time we got to the end of it and get this happening for the benefit of the race club and for the people of Wodonga. And that's what this is about. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Yep. Councillor Chamberlain.
Now an extra motion that goes with that. Thank you to my fellow councillors. The separate motion is that as the appointed Committee of Management of Crown Land, which the planning application pertains to, and in line with the State Government's Committee of Management responsibilities and good practice guidelines, the applicant must seek and obtain ministerial consent for the proposed works upon the granting of the planning permit and prior to any works commencing. So that's just officially to let you know that. And that we authorise the Chief Executive Officer to investigate land parcel ownership and boundary reconciliation to improve management and operation of the Wodonga Racecourse precinct and to bring a report to Council within 12 months of this decision.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Seconded, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Chamberlain.
The first point in this one is merely that we have to inform the state government, given the fact that they in fact own it, and to let them know that what we've decided to do. Hopefully that will just be a formality. The second part of it is to try and rationalise what is really a dog's breakfast down there at Wodonga Racecourse. There are 3 owners to this parcel of land. There is DECA, of which we are the Committee of Management. There is the Wodonga Show Society, and there is Wodonga Council. Wodonga Council owns a relatively small parcel of it, and I think this would be a good way to negotiate in rationalising this stuff and getting some really positive results for the race club in particular to be able to take over the operation and the Committee of Management for the parcel of land, which is basically racing land. And to me, it makes absolute sense to try and rationalise this stuff instead of trying to continue to work with multiple owners on a parcel of land that has basically got, for the most part, one use. Accordingly, I think it's appropriate we get the CEO to investigate the possibilities of how this can be done. There's going to be negotiations with DECA and the state government in Victoria, and hopefully all of that goes well, as well as with the race club and the people involved. So this, to me, would move this into a positive way that if they wish to do things in the future, it'll be a fairly straightforward thing and not an entirely convoluted process as this has been previously. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Poulton, reserve again. Any other councillors? Councillor Poulton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think I scared them off. Look, it's another bit of housekeeping, really, isn't it, to shore up what we've just essentially endorsed to do as a council. And again, apologies and painstakingly frustrated for 3 years of my life given to one particular task. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Only a small point. This is all about obviously seeking consent to get this stuff done, because it being only the Committee of Management and the owners being the state government through DECA, we obviously have to ask their permission, but we're going to try and make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Welcome back, Councillor Hall. The next item, Councillor Simpendorfer.
Thank you. As mentioned at the start of the meeting, conflict of interest with 8.2. Same reasons. Disappointing that we're in this position to not be able to make statements and comments on critical things within the community, but that's the process. So I'll excuse myself as a conflict due to the election period. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. Like Councillor Simpendorfer, I have a conflict for the Riverside Development Plan Amendment. I have this conflict. The matter is within the ward for which I've nominated as a candidate for the upcoming election, and therefore, in accordance with the guidelines put out by the department in the last couple of days, that is considered a conflict. And I'll call on the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Chamberlain, to take the chair.
Okay, interesting position I find myself in. All right, 8.2, the amendment to Riverside Estate Development Plan. Do I have a motion? Councillor Hall.
Move the recommendation. Thanks.
And a seconder, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Hall.
The proposal to amend the approved development plan provides for a much needed second entrance to the estate in a location supported by the responsible road authorities, DTP. Subsequent changes to the internal road network resulting from the relocation of the access point and other changes are relatively minor. This proposal went out to all the relative authorities for comment. Responses received from DECA, North East Water and AusNet. So they went out to even the Fire Safety Victoria and the DTP. None raised objections to the proposal. Those impacted by the proposal changes to the estate were notified. 3 submissions were received supporting the proposal and 2 objections were received. The objections are summarised in the report. One objector had an inaccurate distance noted in their reasons for not supporting the proposal, which was 100 metres where it should have been 210 metres from the traffic from the roundabout, which is, a shorter distance. The other was from the Wodonga Highway Patrol, Victoria Police. The report acknowledges the concerns raised by the police's objection, but it is noted that the proposal has undergone a thorough evaluation. Road traffic impact assessment report has been done by a qualified traffic engineer and has been endorsed by the responsible road traffic authorities. The proposed roundabout will be funded by the developer, which is a real bonus, as opposed to the roundabout where it is currently proposed. which would require joint funding between State Council and the developer. I see this as a win for the Riverside community who have waited so long for a second entrance into this estate, and a win for council and the win for ratepayers. And that's why I'll be supporting this tonight. It's been quite a while coming, and I'd like to see an outcome for the people out there, because it's been a major concern, especially through bushfire seasons, you know, getting out of just one entrance. You know, I believe it's problematic and a safety concern, so I'll definitely be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Lowe, you seconded? Reserve. Any other speakers to the issue? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you. Look, I don't have much to add. Councillor Hall said what I thought about it. It's a very good outcome to have a second access to the Riverside estate. It is a fire danger to not to have the second access and grass and escape route. And it's hopefully at no cost to the community, to the ratepayers. And I can't see, from where I'm standing, I can't see any faults with it. It sounds like a good solution to me. So I'll be supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Councillor Poulton.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. Thank you very much. This is a great bit of housekeeping for the upcoming council group to get elected after elections, because it's one less thing you have to worry about or read about or spend time stressing over. I'll rewind my mind to 2020 when the current council group was elected. This was a topic back then, and there were options on the table that didn't quite come to fruition. We had to go sort of 12 months into our current term, and we didn't have a CEO. So once we got a CEO on board, I can tell you on the 12th of August 2022. So the new CEO, or our current CEO then, was brave enough to go out to see the pitchforks and the lanterns and the screaming and chanting with myself and as the mayor at the time. And we went out there and we brought the community together, not just on this topic, but many others around Kalara. And since then, the good work has been maintained and upkept, rather than having a divided vocal community looking for, rightly so, something perhaps they were promised or believed was going to come their way. We started to methodically work our way through community resolution, where everybody took and understood their roles seriously. And we've got ourselves now, just over 2 years, to a pretty good outcome, I believe. So I'll be supporting it, but memory of an elephant. I remember every single conversation, what was said, where and when and who it was with, and I look forward to perhaps this one being answered once and for all. Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Lowe, you reserved?
Must be a great skill to have memory of an elephant. I wish I did, so especially at the moment. But I'd just like to echo my fellow councillors' words, really. There's no point in going over what's already been said. I think Councillor Hall nailed it on the head. It's a win-win-win. You know, it's a win for community, a win for Riverside Estate, because it was, even the first term, for me, it was a topic back then as well. So from what I'm hearing by the commentary tonight, it will be a win for the Riverside Estate and community as a whole out there. It's just one less thing they have to worry about, because like Councillor Hall identified, that you know, it becomes a fire hazard or a fire trap if you've only got one entry point, one exit point. So to have two out there is magnificent. So I'll be voting in favour tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour? You're right? No, I don't have any. Oh, yeah. Murad, okay. Motion carried unanimously. grab it back.
Yeah. Okay. Next item is 8.3, assessment of planning permit applications within the Wodonga landfill buffer. Do I have a motion? Councillor Chamberlain? No, don't think so. She didn't say so at the start. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation with an addition, and that addition is that and all applications come before a future council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Hall, Councillor Chamberlain.
Okay, now there's been a bit of change in technology since this original landfill buffer was put into place. The original buffer was 500 metres. Since then, there has been some development approved by this council, not this specific group of people, but by the Wodonga Council, to allow some development within that 500 metre buffer to the 250 metre landfill line or buffer line. I'm extremely nervous about granting approvals for developments in buffer zones for landfill. Given the history in Cranbourne back in 2008, where basically an entire new estate had to be vacated because of methane gas getting into their houses. There were millions of dollars spent, compensating people for this sort of trouble within their houses. Having said that, as I said, this basically says that the applications can be put. They have to provide an EPA report on possible gas or leakage, seepage, or anything from the landfill. But I think it's appropriate because anything of this nature will be important that the council themselves take responsibility, obviously with the expert opinion of our excellent staff. But it's going to be contentious no matter what we do. Anything to do with these landfill sites will be contentious by design. Personally, I think building inside the buffer zone is fraught with danger. That's why we have buffer zones. But that will be taken up at the time whenever an application is made and the information has been provided. So I think this is an appropriate action. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain.
I'll reserve, thanks.
Reserve. Other councillors? Councillor Quilty?
Through you. And again, I'm not sure who to ask, but I'll voice my question. And again, I missed a couple of briefings, so maybe I'm missing something here. I'm having trouble with understanding why we have this recommendation in front of us, and what will happen should it be voted down. Like the council receive and assesses planning permit. We say, no, we don't want to receive and assess the planning permit. The application will be put in anyway and will be assessed by staff, I imagine. And then Councillor Chamberlain's proposal that every possible application comes to council. Do we have the legal right to actually do that? So could you please explain this to me?
Councillor Quilty, the first thing is, under the Planning Act, everybody has a right to lodge an application, and the Planning Act requires the responsible authority, that may be delegated staff, that may be the council, depending on the circumstances. The responsible authority must consider the application, even if it's a prohibited matter under the planning scheme. That's the first question. The second question, sorry, refresh my memory. Oh yes, do we have the right? Yes, we do. Under delegated authority, the council can require any applications or class of applications to be exempted out of the delegations. And my understanding is that's the words that are being sought in relation to this resolution. It will, yes, and it will come up again as a matter for 8.5 when we consider the delegations. If, assuming this motion gets up, then this matter will come back again in 8.5. That answer the question?
Sorry, the second question is very clear. Thank you very much. The first question is not quite, but I will just listen to the debate and see if it makes any sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Lowe?
I'll just try to answer what I think Councillor Quilty was trying to ask then, and because I wasn't too sure myself as well, that it's been presented before us tonight because the development now lands on the 250 square metre. So I think what's happening is, because there's quite some more developable land around the landfill, not on the landfill, but around it, that I guess wouldn't be subject too much to EPA anyway, but I think it's sitting here just to finish off a couple of courts by the looks of things, just going by the graphic on page 95. So would I be fair in saying that?
I think there's nothing that was stand out incorrect in what you've said. Some of it might have been a little bit off the specifics of our topic, but yes. Do you wish to continue with your time or anything else to add?
Yeah, no, it's probably just, as I spoke to then, it's probably, from what I'm understanding here, I'm just not sure we need the second part of this motion that Councillor Chambers put forward. I can't see really until a lot of work to be done on that landfill site, what can be built on there, what can't be built on that, to any sort of application come in to that particular area. But the areas surrounding on the other side of the road, etc. There's Crown land that surrounds the other side of it, so there's nothing going to happen out there. So I just feel that probably to the second part of the motion is probably not necessary, but I understand. I think it might create too much workload. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Councillor Poulton?
Just a question, how many applications would we perhaps see come before councillors if we were to support this motion? Do we know how many would likely be mapped across that buffer zone?
Officer Horn.
Subdivided. They could be done on a staged basis, however, so there might be, but typically, you know, I think you'd be looking at 5 or less would be my view, but probably closer to 1 or 2.
That's it. We'll get it sorted out in a minute. Thank you. Thanks for the answer. Other councillors? Councillor Poulton, do you wish to take comment further?
Initially, I was sort of the same mind as Councillor Lowe, where I was thinking, well, why would we need the second part, the addition that Councillor Chamberlain put into the motion? But having had that substantially and well answered around what quantity of workload does that mean to a council, I don't have a problem supporting that addition. So I think I'll go with that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Simpendorfer.
Yeah, I'll be supporting the motion as well. I think I was a bit sort of shared the same sentiment as the concern around everything coming back to us, but I think with obviously the highlighted issues down at Casey and the millions and millions of dollars that council had to fork out for their errors, I think it gives a lot more comfort for us and the staff to bring these only handful of applications back through to council as a decision. I think it protects us all and the community. So I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. Just a couple of comments before I go to Councillor Hall, who reserved. Sorry.
May I ask another question?
Question, Councillor Coulty.
I haven't spoken, I just asked questions. Councillor Chamberlain, would you mind reading your motion again?
I think the motion reads, it's option 2 basically, which is that council receive and assess planning permit applications for land within the 500 metre landfill buffer, subject to the condition that the applicant has submitted a Section 208 environmental audit to assess landfill gas risk with the proposed development, and all applications that have come before a council meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Coulty. Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Just a couple of things. The reason we have these buffers is to give an opportunity to deal with extraordinary matters. The presumption that comes with these buffers is that we shouldn't be developing in the area within the buffer unless it can positively be shown that it's acceptable to do so. Unlike most other areas, most other development is based on a different set of merit criteria. So this is a positive. The result must give an answer that is positive, and the assessments must say that the risk is very low, etc. In the bigger picture, the risk to council for getting it wrong is quite significant. So in that context, bringing the decision to the council table, because it's such an important matter to the council, is the appropriate way to go about it. This is a matter of community interest that should be dealt with at the council table, in my view. So that's the way I see it, and I'm planning to support the motion that's been put. Councillor Hall, you're reserved.
Yes, I have to agree. I've had my concerns, like 250 metres isn't really that far in the scheme of things. Problems do happen, they can happen. I know there'd be checks and balances and everything, but I think as a council I'd feel far more better that each development came up. Sometimes you get fresh information, we can deal with it as a council. I think the community would expect us to deal with it as a council. Yeah, I think it needs to come to council because it's such an important issue for our community.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Thank you to the councillors for their input. Just a couple of things, as I said before. I think it's important that this comes to council simply because it is going to be by definition controversial. And anything that's basically controversial, I believe it's important that the people of Wodonga understand what the process is and what we've gone through, and to bring it to a council meeting ensures complete transparency as to what we're going to do with it. That doesn't mean we're going to ignore the advice in any way by the officers, and we will be, as we always do, relying very heavily on their expertise in all of these things. Having said that, as I said, I think it's important that the council owns these decisions because they are by definition controversial. The other little point I just wanted to make is, as Councillor Lowe stated, this doesn't mean there's not going to be another use for the actual landfill site or within that buffer, just not housing development stuff. So if we find that the site's safe for other operations, other use, bike tracks, running bits, exercise equipment, whatever it is, as long as we make sure that the people of Wodonga are going to be safe in that use, that might very well be an appropriate use that the council can decide to go ahead with in future. But I think this is an appropriate motion for this today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Those against? Councillor Quilty. Those in favour was Councillor Simbendorfer, Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Mildren, Councillor Hall, Councillor Poulton and Councillor Lowe. The motion is carried. The next item on the agenda is Advocacy Position Update September 2024. Just before we go into this matter, I remind the councillors of the electoral period memo that we received, guidelines for councils and for councillors running in a council elections. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain. As recommended, do I have a seconder? Councillor Simpendorfer, Councillor Chamberlain.
Not much to say on this. All this does is basically give the staff the go-ahead to continue with the advocacy plan and all the things that the council has already decided that we wish to advocate upon. Thank you. And this basically covers the election period until the new council gets an opportunity to update, if they wish, the advocacy plan going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Simpendorfer. Nothing to add. Any other councillors? Councillor Poulton.
Mr. Mayor, if I was to talk to these matters and outline some positives within this report, does that put anybody into a position of conflict? Through you to the CEO.
I think it comes back to the point of specifically conflict is in the mind of the individual councillor. Given the way the guidelines have been presented, it only impacts those councillors who have nominated or intend to nominate. I note that you've expressed that you don't wish to nominate. I think you can probably speak on the matter.
As long as I don't drag anybody into debate, Mr. Mayor. Local government is where you can advocate. It's where you can actually try to persuade or at least put your vision and your best foot forward. And this is essentially what's in front of us that the councillors seeking re-election are hesitant to speak to or speak about based on guidance given today. It's just a missed opportunity in my mind. I'd encourage the community to go and have a look at what the council has been doing, who they've been contacting, what they've been putting the city's interests forward as. This was essentially an update report, but as I said, hesitant engagement from councillors seeking re-election. Not so much from me, because I'll remain proud of the efforts that I've put in over the past 4 years with 6 other councillors, and I probably should say 8, given there's 2 that left this council under trying circumstances, and both for different reasons. But you know, I guess this report being tabled and essentially accepted by these councillors this evening, whilst they may feel a little hamstrung or even, dare I say it, gagged by state legislation, to me it's just a sad thing not to at least speak to the positivity of what is being put forward in all different sorts of spaces, whether it be health and wellbeing, some of the housing, open spaces and things like that, of which the council is trying to do good work with. Unfortunately, we're on the side of caution there this evening with some of that conversation, but just know the CBD revitalisation, there's a lot of things that we've been trying for some years to get traction with, and hopefully that work will continue well into the future on behalf of the growing population, which I think this year was forecast to be closer to 46,000 people. So, yeah, fingers crossed, and I'll be supporting the motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Other councillors?
Nothing more to add.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 8.5 is the review of instruments of delegation. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain.
The motion is as per recommended with one change. The change is under item 2.1. I wish it to read, there be delegated to the members of council staff holding, acting in or performing the duties of officers or positions referred to in the attached S6 instrument of delegation by the council to members of council staff, the powers, duties and functions set out in that instrument, subject to the conditions and limitations specified in that instrument. And with the addition under the Planning and Environment Act 1987 that the power to approve planning permit applications within the landfill buffer is not delegated.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Hall, Councillor Chamberlain.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The delegation document is very long and it gives the staff an opportunity to perform their functions on a lot of things that don't really need to come back to council and tie us all up in knots and you know, have things get drawn out. But as was stated in the previous item or earlier item about the landfill applications, I think it's appropriate that any of those applications do come before a council meeting for the same reasons that I've outlined earlier. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Hall.
Yes, as Councillor Chamberlain has mentioned, the instrument of delegations is probably one of the most important documents that councillors provide to our CEO. It enables him to be able to function and delegate powers to appropriate managers and officers and so on. We often have our delegations come up because there's legislation changes and we have to update these to comply with the various acts and regulations. The review incorporates recent changes to the legislation, and it ensures councils remain transparent and promote high standards of integrity and accountability. They use a template, and we have a legal firm, Maddox, that goes through them and identifies any legislation that we need to update our instrument with. So this is just one of the many times it comes up, might come up a few times a year, and often it's just an update from legislation that needs to be changed and get us up to date with our delegation. So yes, I support this going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Other councillors? Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like Councillor Hall said, delegations is an important document, and our instrument of delegations gets reviewed annually, if I'm not mistaken, and it is very important to review it regularly. It has just been demonstrated why. Our instrument of delegations delegates most of the powers that are not legislated, are not specifically legislated, that may not be delegated by council, delegates most of them to the CEO or through the CEO to staff. Also, obviously, there are monetary limits within each delegation, and every once in a while we come in front of an issue or a decision that is tied to the delegations, and it's very difficult to review the whole instrument of delegation. The new councillors, I'm sure, will be in the next term will be baffled by the amount of reading the pages they have to do and every single power under every single law that it's delegated. It is an important and very difficult to comprehend document, and thankfully we have the lawyers to help us there. But I would urge anyone on the council to make sure that every decision that is made to look at it through the view of the instrument of delegation. And Councillor Chamberlain has just given us an excellent example of how an instrument of delegation can be amended to help us work efficiently and make the decisions. So thanks for that. Yes, and at this stage, I will be supporting the updates to the instrument of delegations as they are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coulty. Other councillors? Councillor Lowe?
To be honest, I wasn't going to say much to this, but Councillor Quilty raised a really good point. This is, and so did Councillor Hall, that this is one of those documents, pardon me, that come to us regularly for review. And I've been fortunate enough, or unfortunate enough would be a better way to put it, that I've sat through this a couple of times where we've been through every one line by line, seeing the delegations. And really it's a job for someone that loves acronyms. Because the way you've got to reference back all the time to each delegation, it's very time consuming and it's like watching paint dry really in the end. But I can assure you that this instruments of delegation has been reviewed many, many times and will continue to be. And I'll be voting in favour of it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Other councillors? I'll just add into the equation that the instrument of delegation and the assessment of it is probably one of the most important things that the council, or the elected council, actually deals with. Next to the budget process and next to employing a CEO, the instrument of delegation is probably the next most important thing. So I recommend to any incoming council that it's something they get their head around very early. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to other councillors for their input. Again, it's an extremely important document. It comes up for review fairly regularly when there are changes, whether they be legislative or otherwise. And it's been timely in this case because we had a matter in which we wish to change the delegation accordingly that's come up earlier in this meeting. I will echo the words of the other councillors to say future council members need to have their head around this delegation. The City of Wodonga delegates a large proportion of their decisions to their staff compared to a lot of other councils. In a lot of cases, that's a very positive thing. It's very efficient. It's very effective. In other cases, we've got to be a little bit careful about the fact that there's a perception, at the very least out there, that the councillors are not taking their responsibility seriously. I can tell you that's the furthest thing from the truth. Accordingly, as I said, I've moved the motion to approve this change to the delegations and support it completely at this time. It'll be interesting to see how the new council see it when they go through it line by line and review the whole thing. It's an enormous document. There's a few of those around. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next item is 8.6 Gateway Village Master Plan, the final plan. Councillor Simpendorfer.
Yeah, conflict of interest again, Mr Mayor General, as per the advice from the government around election time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. Likewise, I have a conflict. The matter is within the ward for which I have nominated as a candidate for the upcoming election.
Thank you. Okay, 8.6, Gateway Village Master Plan, the final plan. Do I have a motion? As per recommendation, Councillor Poulton, and the seconder? Councillor Lowe. Councillor Poulton?
Thank you, Mr Acting Mayor. This is a great body of work that the public's had the chance to put their input on, along with prior to that, I guess, the user groups of Gateway Village. It was interesting. I only just recently had a conversation with someone on the other side of the river, and that they were approaching the rickety bridge, the Union Bridge, to come on over to Gateway Village. As they were riding their bike past me, I said, "Watch out for those joins in the bridge and what have you." And they were talking about how important it is to have the accessibility to the village. I know that's one of the things addressed here in the master plan. I guess is the accessibility and inclusivity. So the amenities, signage, tactile indicators, everything that's been considered there. And it's really been heavily designed by those that use it, or I should say updated by those that use it. But also there's been substantial chances, including there at the markets, for the community to provide feedback on that master plan as well. So it's pretty straightforward, adopting it as attached. So thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, thank you. It's speaking of big bodies of work to read, Councillor Chamberlain. This is another one, probably not so much in just the Gateway Village Master Plan, but the history that comes behind it. And you know, it takes into account former Gateway Island Master Plans and former Gateway Village Plans that date back to 1997. And one thing that you pick up out of the whole lot is, or a couple of things that you pick up out of the whole lot is, the community generally had the same input along the way. They had the same vision for the island. They want to embrace it. They want to embrace the river. They want to improve the functionality of the site. And then, you know, I did pick up one though. It says improvement to existing transport options and development to potential transport options. You know, it speaks to a tramway and stuff like that, which is, you know, it sounds pie in the sky, but who knows? One day it could be possible. So probably not the transport options at the moment, since we don't actually have a transport strategy, but that's another thing. Another thing I picked up out of all these plans is we've got master plan on master plan on master plan here. But if you go through the things that have been ticked off that come out of the 1997 one, cultural entertainment precinct, not quite there yet. Aboriginal Cultural Centre, yes, we're there. Craft and commercial precinct, yes, we're there. But then you go on to the 2002, improve lake edges, no. Presence of enlarged water body, no. Revegetation of northern part of Island, that's been completed. But then we go through the whole of the 2018 plan, and I won't name them all, but it's no, 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 no. So you've got to ask yourself, why not? So do we need a plan for budgeting here? So we've got our master plan, that's what's meant to inform, but things are happening ad hoc, so it's not really flowing there. You know, we've got people wanting river access points, swimming locations, camping holiday park comes up quite frequently too. But the accessibility, improvability, you know, it's just, you know, more tables and chairs on the river so you can enjoy the river outlook itself. I will be voting in favour of this Gateway Village Master Plan tonight, but I just note all those things, you know, and whether we even need to raise the question, should the village part itself be sold to a private developer or developers, so we can get these things happening a lot faster than what council seem to be doing. I'm not saying either way, I'm just posing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Any other councillors? Councillor Hall?
Yes, look, Gateway Island is ongoing, and it will be ongoing for many, many years to come. Master planning is important, so we've got some roadmap to where we go with what we develop there. And hopefully, you know, some of these proposals will encourage more usage, which, I mean, I know our community love Gateway Island, I love it myself too, but it has been lacking in development, but it's also comes down to a lot of budgetary issues as well. So, you know, having an idea where we do with our planning, we can put some budgetary amounts to it. And as I said, it will be an ongoing development going forward. it's been, the plan went out for consultation with all the stakeholders there, and there was some really great feedback. But yes, as I said, would like to see more happening there, depending on where we go over the next few years. We may be able to achieve a little bit more in our budgets going forward if the next council, I'm talking on behalf of myself, but in the next council may want to take it that bit further. So yes, I support the master plan. I think it's a needed document, and it's an ongoing plan for council to be able to address some of the issues and encourage more recreational use in the vicinity.
Thank you. Any other councillors? I'll have my 2 cents worth here if I can. I think, again, it's appropriate that we have the master plan and it gets updated. It is an ongoing thing. Councillor Lowe makes a good point. Perhaps in the future it might be appropriate that we think about selling part of the village to a private person to develop it in another way that we may not be able to, either financially or don't have the will to. So, but in the meantime, I think it's good that the plans get updated and we know which direction we would like it to go. And the consultation on this, as our consultation has been, and the people who do it, the staff who do our consultation, have done a very good job again. Councillor Poulton to close.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. Lots of aspiration in the community councillors, lots of aspiration, probably one of the most aspirational cities, I think, in Australia. Unfortunately, as Councillor Lowe pointed out, sometimes action is lacking. And unfortunately, and I hope the French don't come for me, but champagne taste on a beer budget, I think sometimes is what holds this city back, which is very unfortunate. And I'm hoping people can change that in the future. Just on the point of introduced there around selling the village, just from my dealings of trying to get the Peace Bell installed there, which is now down at Assumption Gardens, we tried to get a couple of little concrete footings in the ground down there as part of the village or attached to it as one of the first locations, and some in the room will remember that project. We had issues trying to get approval to put a footing in the ground, so I'm not too sure how commercially viable selling the land is. There's some engineering and NECMA and all sorts of bodies that will prevent any reasonable development, I'm sure. So it's just a little heads up of maybe just keeping that aspiration just reined back in a little bit, because there's some complexities in that. But that'll receive my support, the motion that I move. Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. So I put the motion. All those in favour? Yep. And the motion's carried unanimously. Thank you.
Okay, councillors, item 8.7, proposed road name, Ross Close. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Poulton, as per recommended. Do I see Councillor Chamberlain? Councillor Poulton.
This is essentially a road name, folks. There's a whole report on it. Somebody's gone to the effort of writing all the words, and I'm just going to say I've moved it as recommended. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Poulton. Councillor Chamberlain.
Yeah, I'm going to have a little bit more to say. I mentioned this when it first came up. It's been out for consultation since. It surprises me, and at least one of the people who responded to it had the same thoughts, that in an area which has, an area of Wodonga which has basically Indigenous or Indigenous sourced type names, that we've come up with an adjusted name from the Gaelic Welsh tradition, and then changed it to have an extra S, so it doesn't make any sense. Now, I'd suggest 5 minutes after it's gazetted, Ross Close will be Ross Close, and people will just assume it's named after Mr. Ross somewhere. That's not the case, and we don't put history on the signpost underneath the street names to tell us where we got it from. But it just surprises me in Moonya Estate, with a number of things in there which are basically Indigenous style name, that we've gone for a Gaelic Welsh name for this close. Having said that, I don't have a specific objection to the name, and given the fact that it hasn't turned into a massive issue for the public to object to, I think it should be let go through. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Other councillors? Councillor Hall?
As we don't have the naming places committee anymore, maybe more of these names like that will get through, being that, you know, with the committee we did a lot of debate and conversation around what we submitted to council. So that's a comment for another, well, that's a discussion for another day. The Ross name is a bit lacklustre. You know, I don't particularly, doesn't inspire me. It has been out for feedback, and there was 4 submissions received, 3 objections. You know, it's some of what was proposed in the objections didn't inspire me either. So we've got this name in front of us. I don't propose going back. It's a bit of a long process, but maybe going forward, the establishment of a committee may help with better name choices. So, yeah, I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Lowe?
I think I've said it many times that names is one thing that I won't jump into. There's a reason why most of us in this room are all called different names, and that's because, except for you and I, Danny, that where our mothers would agree that, yeah, we'll be there. But the one that I normally lay anything on, give weight to, is the emergency services, and if they don't have a problem with this name, then nor do I. But I do note, we talk about things taking a long time coming. I think my first term as a councillor, this was the very first item I think I looked at coming up with some affordable housing. So just goes to show how long things take sometimes. I'll be supporting the document. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Other councillors? Councillor Quilty?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I will be supporting the proposed name for the same reason as Councillor Poulton, which was, quote, why not? What I would like to say is I would like to thank the 3 submitters who voiced their opinion and proposed different names even. And I can see that there is interest in the community. And as I said multiple times before, I was really surprised to see the lack of interest in the place name committee. I think it's a great way for community to participate, given opportunities were given to use childcare at council expense, etc. So I would like to voice to support Councillor Hall in hoping that perhaps the place name committee will be re-established with new community members wishing to participate in choosing names for the streets and places in our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Other councillors? Councillor Poulton to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess what's in a name? What's in a name? They can be changed anyway, whether it's your own name or whether it's a street name. It can be changed in the future. Why not start with a name? That's always a good place to start. And I just want to pick up on my my colleagues, and I think it was a shared distaste around us abolishing the place naming committee due to lack of interest or lack of participation from community members. If I can foreshadow those that do have my phone number, perhaps once I'm done as a councillor, if you get a committee up and running, that is one I'd love to be a part of. Never got to be part of it as a councillor because it was your passion project, Councillor Hall. But I would happily come and reinvigorate the place naming committee if that's my legacy piece beyond being a councillor, because I actually think it's a place you could not only just learn a lot, but also perhaps have a little bit of fun as well, even if it does on the surface seem a little boring. But this motion will have my support. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor Poulton. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item, 8.8, is the proposed road names in Whenby Grange estate. Do I have a motion? Councillor Hall?
I have a conflict of interest, a general conflict of interest. A family member lives close nearby in that estate.
Thank you, councillor Hall. Councillors, do I have a motion? Thank you, councillor Lowe. As per recommendation, seconded councillor Simpendorfer. Councillor Lowe.
To quote a famous councillor, why not move the recommendation? Again, like I've said before, I don't jump into names, so I won't repeat it. But actually, I will, because I was a little surprised that we didn't get one from the emergency services on this one, just because of Falcondale being so close to Falcon. I thought Falcon Circuit and West Wodonga and Falcondale Crescent, but semantics really. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Lowe. Councillor Simpendorfer.
Wasn't going to, but famous or infamous? I'll be supporting it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Other councillors? Councillor Chamberlain.
For those eagle-eyed people in the gallery, you'll notice I wear a dragon tie pin when I'm at council meetings. That dragon tie pin is in respect to my father, who was born in Cardiff in Wales. These are Welsh names. The only issue I have, and I take on board Councillor Lowe's point about Falcondale being close to Falcon, the other one I have is Clydach. And how are we going to pronounce it? We pronounce it in Australia because we're in Australia, or do we pronounce it in Welsh because it's a whole different thing? Having said that, being my father's homeland, it's not mine. My homeland is Australia. But it's nice to see a little bit of what he would have considered home coming to Wodonga. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Quilty.
Question, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Chamberlain. Could you please pronounce Clydach in Welsh?
I shall attempt if you like, but it's basically Clydach, and it sounds a little bit like it, but it's going to be, the important thing about it is going to be that, as Councillor Lowe pointed out, that the emergency services know what it says. So whoever's describing it and saying it to them, if you're calling the police, or more importantly, an ambulance or a fire brigade, you need them to know straight away where it is so they can get there without any delay. So that's the only thing I've got. It's not a real objection, but that's what it's about.
Councillor Quilty, do you wish to continue, or is that any other councillors? Councillor Poulton.
As someone who's had to name 5 kids, not one name but 2, I'll support the motion.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Lowe to close.
Nothing further to add. Put the motion.
Thank you, councillor Lowe. Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item is item 8.9, proposed sale of land to Released Energy and proposed discontinuance of part of Lenehen Road Logic. Councillors, I remind you of the election period guidance for councils and for councillors running in an election period. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain. As per recommendation. Councillor Simpendorfer. Councillor Chamberlain.
This is important, and I note the guidelines for the election period. Having said that, it's not in the ward I have nominated in, but that being beside the point, this is important for the whole of Wodonga. The timing on this was important. It came to our last council meeting last month to ensure that it could go out for consultation and hopefully the land sale, if approved, could go through and we could get this thing on the go. The issue being, of course, it was a bit time sensitive in as much as we don't want to miss out on the sale. I think it's a good thing. It's based on released energy creating a factory out there, which initially won't put together a lot of jobs apart from the actual construction of the factory, but they'll be using a fairly new technology to manufacture batteries for firming of the grid in various ways for solar and wind and renewable energy projects. It's a new technology. Apparently it's a lot less toxic. We don't have the full information other than that, and I'm sure the EPA and everybody else will be involved when it comes time to approve plans for the factory itself. This is the land sale, and it has the potential on a couple of the other parts of the plan from released energy going forward to actually include a couple of other things that will increase jobs out in the Logic estate. So the initial battery plant won't involve a lot of jobs because it'll be automated, or potentially. Having said that, the next parts do have the potential to improve the jobs for Wodonga. Included in this is the discontinuance of Lenehen Road, which sounds like we're going to chop up a road that exists. The road has been gazetted, but it doesn't currently exist in this way. But what it does is it allows the package of the land to continue without a break down the middle of it of a potential road. There is listed a slight risk of reduced egress area in the case of a fire or a problem of that nature. Having said that, it's a very slight risk, and I'm sure the actual way that the factory precinct is developed should allow them easily egress from that area. In accordance with the recommendation, as it says there, I think we're going to propose a slight rates concession. This is an important project. We're talking about, multiple millions of dollars at Logic, and this is what Logic was about. But obviously, jobs, new businesses, new technologies, and taking Wodonga forward in the 21st century with land sales that help us to develop and move Wodonga forward. So obviously I'm supporting it, I'm moving it, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Reserve. Any other councillors? Councillor Lowe.
Yeah, I think this is one of those exciting projects, sales for Wodonga. If you look at the figures alone, it's a $21 million sale for Logic out there. So, firstly, I'd like to thank Released Energy and allowing us to talk about this in public and not have it as commercial in confidence, which is what some do. There's, they ask for some rate relief in this, but instead of taking rate relief, which is what a lot of companies to do in sort of larger sort of developments, they're taking the amount that the rate relief was and then reinvesting it back into the community in a way that councils of the time sees fit. And I think that's a big plus. Yeah, you can't always go out to the biggest dollar and say they're the greatest fit. They've also got to sit with your community standards, and I think this will meet community standards. Not just the 100 full-time jobs in the first part, but what Councillor Chamberlain said is what it grows into. It's that waterfall effect. They've got their main business, but they've got subsidiaries that run off that as well. So I'm looking forward to the community working with this particular company. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lowe. Other councillors? Councillor Hall.
Yes, look, this is, this is a great proposal. This is a great sale if it eventually does get up and goes ahead, and hopefully it does. Nothing happens. It's a big win for our community and for Logic. Logic's been an ongoing, been ongoing, and I think we've really made some grounds with making sales at Logic in the last few years. There will be, the more sales out there, the more rate relief we can put onto our residential ratepayers, because commercial rates generally a lot more, and we give a bit more relief to the residential members of our community, ratepayers of our community. There are concessions, but they're small in the scheme of things for this sale. There's jobs. It really is a good proposition for us, and it's about building batteries. It's not storage, and it's a massive plant. So for us to be able to achieve this in Wodonga, it really is a step up for us as a community and as with business and what have you. So I'm really impressed with getting this land sale up and hopefully over the get it over the table and get it done. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Quilty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now I would like to join Councillor Lowy in thanking the applicant, the prospective buyer, for letting us talk about it in public at this stage. I would also like to thank the staff for working with this deal and for being expedient in bringing it to council, setting up a special meeting, having community consultation, and making sure it all happens really fast. It did require plenty of extra effort, and the effort was made, and hopefully to good result. My colleagues have already mentioned multiple reasons why this sale is very good for the community, and I agree with them all. One thing, what is it, a spoonful of tar in a barrel of honey. One thing I would like to say is to quote one of our officers from the finance department who said a very smart thing once. A sale at Logic is a sugar hit. It's great to have the sale. This is a great sale, but it's a sugar hit. We shouldn't or new councils shouldn't get in a sugar coma or drunk on it. We should remember that a lot of investment is required in Logic, in the city infrastructure, that we still have a lot of debt, and that we go through great sales like this and periods of stagnation at Logic. So it's a large sum of money, and I urge everybody who has access to it. It will improve the budget outlook next year, hopefully. I urge everybody to be careful with it and to put it to a very good use, considering current and future generations of Wodonga City. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Quilty. Okay, before we go to your reserved, I'd just like to acknowledge the amount of work that goes into making these sort of things happen. This is not something that just walks in the front door. If we sat back, as perhaps some would argue we have done in the distant past, and wait for businesses and sales to come to us, then we wouldn't achieve anything like this. And I just want to acknowledge the work of our new staff that have absolutely got into this and in essence brought the thing to the culmination that we're in today. It is a really significant thing for the city of Wodonga with this development and this sale. It's significant in jobs, it's significant in investment, it's significant in the long-term structural capacity and capability for this council with a capital funds injection of what we're about to receive with this. So thank you to the staff that have absolutely worked to bring this about and make it happen. And to any other participants that might have been involved, from the agents that we might have engaged through to whoever else has had a game in this. This is really important and it's been done very well by our people. Councillor Simpendorfer, nothing more to add. Councillor Chamberlain to close.
I thank fellow councillors for their input on this. As was stated, it's a very important, almost landmark sale. We've had a couple over the years, but they've been perhaps not as quick as we would have liked. This one being a very large parcel, you know, as I said, 21 million. I think it's important for the people of Wodonga, and I think it's a good use of the land out there. It will mean jobs, and I hope that they have a very successful business and can get this up and running as quickly as possible, because it's going to be important for the town. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. I put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The next item is 8.10, proposed land sales at Logic, Vic Cans Australia Proprietary Limited. Before we go to the item, I have some late information that has come in from an anonymous submitter. The submitter says, I refer to the above and the public notices published with respect to the proposed road discontinuance of Lenehen Road and the proposed land sale to Vic Cans for nominated amount. Yeah, well, it specifically refers to the price. So, and the price of one of the lots. So we received a single response, and the response is that the price seems a bit low, but otherwise I have no objection. So I'm just putting that in as information that's around for councillors to do with as they see fit. Do I have a motion, please? Councillor Chamberlain, as recommended. Seconder. Councillor Simpendorfer. Councillor Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, land sale at Logic. This one is an add-on to a company that's already bought some land at Logic, I believe, and I think it's important that we be consistent and we help these people to grow their businesses. In regard to the submission that we've just had, it'd be lovely to be able to turn around and tell these people that they need to pay millions over the odds, because that'd help our budget. But that's not the case. We've got to be realistic, and we've got to be aware that these people are continuing customers, and they've given a reasonable offer, which our staff have had a very good look at. They've looked at the possibilities of what we can reasonably expect to earn on a block of land this big. It's not that large, it's only 2 hectares. And I think that they've done a good job in their negotiations in getting to the deal that we've looked like we're going to strike in this. So to me, I think again, it's another land sale at Logic. Land sales at Logic, or land at Logic, is there to be sold, and it's there to be sold for usage that will be an improvement to the city of Wodonga on a number of ways. I think this complies, and I think it should be passed, which is why I'm recommending it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Councillor Simpendorfer.
Just really super quickly, Mr. Mayor, I think just to highlight where we've come from, I think 4 years ago our very first paper, $5 a square metre, wasn't cutting the mustard, and now we're finding ourselves in these sales at Logic. It's really good to see. This particular sale, obviously it's now the outcome of the public notice is why it's back here for us, and to authorise the CEO to move on with the documentation. So I'll be supporting the motion as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simpendorfer. Other councillors? Councillor Hall.
Yeah, I'd just like to further add, you know, in comment to what Councillor Simpendorfer has just mentioned, like we have come a long way with the land sales out at Logic, and we just are jumping hurdles at this. We're really doing well, and it's great to see. But as our mayor said too, it's been to do with a lot to do with our staff, yeah, our CEO and council as a whole. You know, we were motivated to make changes and get the best possible prices that we could, and to boost the land sales. And I think we've achieved that, and I'm very happy to make this land sale again.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Other councillors? Councillor Simpendorfer to close. No, sorry, Councillor Chamberlain to close.
Yeah, nothing more to add. I think it's an important land sale. I think all of these land sales are important, the small ones, preferably the big ones. And hopefully there'll be more going forward, because I think we're heading in the right direction with this stuff, I think, very much so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Next item is 9, reports for noting, of which there are none. Reports for information, the record of council meetings. Any matters wish to be raised? No. The 10.2 decisions register, any issues? Councillor Chamberlain.
I will note there are a few decisions on the decisions register that have been there quite a long time. It doesn't look like, well, it's pretty obvious that most of them are not going to, the older ones in particular, are not going to be handled within the period of this council. Hopefully they can get knocked over fairly early in the new council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. There are no notices of motion. Is there any general business, councillors? Councillor Chamberlain.
Couple of things here. First, I want to note the passing in the last week of a stalwart of, in particular, the Wodonga Cricket Club and Wodonga as a whole, in Bill Proud. He's been around and a fairly close neighbour of mine, not super close, but a couple of blocks away, and I've known him. I've went to school with his son, and he was a life member of the Wodonga Cricket Club, and he was an absolute stalwart of the town, and it's very sad to see him pass, as we all must one day. The other things I wanted to say is it was my pleasure, given the Mayor was unable to attend the Albury-Wodonga Football Association Awards Night and their Cup final over at Lavington Sports Ground. And obviously being in the election period and things being tight in the Albury elections, Mayor King over there was unable to hang around, so I had the pleasure of presenting the cup and the medals to the winning teams. Great night, some wonderful football, as in soccer, being played, and some really good to see the people at all levels right through it. The other thing I attended on the same vein was the Albury-Wodonga Football Association, not in an official capacity this time, their State of Origin game last night, which they held on our side of the border at Kelly Park. And the comment I made to the CEO today is, the thing that struck me, apart from obviously the best of our local football talent playing on the ground, both male and female, was the condition of the ground. It was extraordinary. Absolutely billiard table smooth, and I think the players would have absolutely appreciated playing on grounds in that condition. I think the outdoor staff at Wodonga need to be congratulated on what they've done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain. Other councillors? No? I'd just like to make reference to the CWA 90th celebrations, which I attended a week or two ago, and a few days later attended the tree planting ceremony with Councillor Chamberlain down in Assumption Gardens, which was really good to see. There's a tree that's going to grow for over 200 years, and it will acknowledge the fact that the CWA on their 90th birthday had the opportunity to put a tree in the ground that'll outlast them. And the further thing, I'd just like to acknowledge the great report that appeared in the Board of Mail written by our present journalist tonight in relation to that event and the history of the CWA. It was really good to see all that come together. So, thank you. Any other councillors? No? No urgent late business? We have some confidential matters, so I'd like a motion to close the open part of the meeting and go into confidential. Councillor Chamberlain, seconder please. Councillor Hall, put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much to the gallery. Get the microphone working. Okay. Welcome back. Can I have a motion to adopt the in-camera recommendations, please? Councillor Chamberlain, Councillor Hall. Councillor Chamberlain, anything you wish to say? Councillor Hall? Any other councillors? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The acting CEO for the purposes, Dina Fleckett, can you please read out the motion from the confidential bit, the public bit that can be read out, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That following the annual performance review for the CEO, that 1, the CEO's overall performance be assessed as above expectation, performance exceeds requirements, and 2, Council defer determination of the CEO's total remuneration package to the February Council meeting.
Thank you very much. There being no other business and nothing else to deal with, I close the meeting at 7:58.